Hey creatures of the night, we're here at the Ripped Bodice, which is my favorite store in California and one of only 2 romance bookstores. We're here for the signing of The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Mahurin, which is a very, very fun vampire novel. If you're a fan of Serpent and Dove and that entire series, this should be the next one on your reading list. Come on. I love this one. If you guys are into graphic novels, this one's really cute. And that one is too. I have them both.
One bed falls. Is that there's only one bed trope reference?
Oh, maybe. Like, one of my favorite things about this bookstore is they'll do like the blind date with a book, but they'll write like funny little things on the books, like to give you an idea of what it's about without telling you what it's about. I've actually bought so many of these because like the little descriptions were so catchy. They're so fun.
Oh, I like the hello stickers.
Yeah, it's hello, my name is, and then they do the little description. Like, how would you like to be my 100th, but also first date? And we know it's a MM and YA.
Aw, the Parliament wig stays on.
Comedy gold. Comedy gold. Oh, this is cool.
I love this one.
Yeah.
This is all of Dracula's brides. They're all dealing with how they can love one another and love that he brought them together, but they don't like him. He's toxic.
So this is the Serpent and Dove series. This is not necessary reading to go into the Scarlet Veil, but I would highly recommend it because Lou and Reed do play a big role in this book, and they are the main characters in the Serpent and Dove series.
Other author is going to be part of this discussion.
Yes, Adam Silvera.
Highly recommended.
I like this one a lot. This is a sapphic fairy tale. It's very Sleeping Beauty. It's really good. People keep convincing me to read The Priory of the Orange Tree as well. We should find our seats. We should get ready. This is so exciting.
And now to introduce our guest. Adam Silvera is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of They Both Die at the End, the first to die at the end, More Happy Than Not, History Is All You Left Me, the Infinity Cycle trilogy, and What If It's Us, duology with Becky Albertalli. His novels have received many starred reviews. He previously worked in children's publishing and book selling. He was born and raised in the Bronx and now lives in LA, and he is tall for no reason. He wrote that. And our guest of honor today is Shelby Mahurin. She is the best-selling author of the Serpent and Dove trilogy. She grew up on a small farm in rural Indiana where sticks became wands and cows became dragons. Her rampant imagination didn't fade with age, so she continues to play make-believe every day with words instead of cows now. When not writing, Shelby watches The Office and reads voraciously. She lives near that childhood farm with her very tall husband and semi-feral children. And welcome our guest to the stage.
All right. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you all for coming to celebrate Shelby.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to see you guys. This is my first time in LA.
What's your impression so far? The 2 hours you've been here?
I know the 2 hours that I've been here, my hotel is very nice.
Yeah.
And this bookstore is super, super cute.
Well, I'm glad that you get to be here. Love the store so much, and the readers who always come here are always so awesome. So I think just a quick run of how we're gonna do this. I'm gonna ask Shelby about her, is it rampant imagination?
Oh my god, it's so embarrassing. That bio's so old. I really need to update it.
So we're gonna update. I'm gonna text you about that.
Thank you. I need the reminder.
And then I have some questions. Some are about the series. We're keeping everything pretty spoiler light, spoiler free. Really,
Yeah,
I mean definitely spoiler free for the book.
For this one,
yeah.
Serpent and Dove. I mean, are we allowed to spoil Serpent and Dove?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Wait, is anybody opposed to spoilers for Serpent and Dove? Speak now. Okay.
Great. All right.
All
That's
right.
awesome. Fantastic. This never happened.
I know, I'm like, cool. I guess it has been like 2 years since the last book came out.
But I had to do an event for They Both Died at the End like a few months ago, and I was like, okay, is it safe to assume that everyone in this room is kind of like 2 people raised their hand that they hadn't? Everyone hated them.
I know, party, man.
We were supposed to have like an intimate conversation,
Right.
but see, you get to do that now. So you get to
Excellent,
like go all
most
in.
excellent.
Do you want to just like give a little thing on like what Scarlet Veil is?
I did.
Why are we here? Why do we care?
I made an elevator pitch for this book.
Ooh,
I
love it.
didn't for Serpent and Dove,
Okay.
so that was really painful.
Yeah.
So it was like a witch and a witch hunter, I don't know, they fall in love.
Yeah.
So the Scarlet Veil is the first in a new spin-off duology set in the same universe as Serpent and Dove. It follows Célie Tremblay, who you might remember from Serpent and Dove as Reed's ex-girlfriend, his childhood love, and she's like the mean girl, right? The mean girl archetype. In this book, she is the first huntswoman in the kingdom, and she is bound and determined to prove herself by investigating a string of magical murders in Cesarine. All of their bodies are drink blood. She doesn't know what this means, but we know what it means. She follows the investigation straight to the heart of a vampire lair, where she attracts the attention of its cruel yet beautiful king, right? Who, of course, has plans of his own for Célie.
Love this.
Thank you, thank you.
I love also just like the kind of like the grim things you write, and your vibe is so bubbly too.
It's very deceptive.
Yeah. I feel like based on like your aesthetic and everything, and then there's so much like beautiful, wonderful contrast here that I just admire.
We contain multitudes,
Yes.
right?
So when you were like putting together this spin-off and making sure this stands on its own, did you like reread like the Serpent and Dove trilogy? Okay.
Absolutely not. Do you reread your books?
Yeah, I mean like I'll listen to like the audiobooks of mine.
Oh, I can't do
I don't
that
just
either.
like sit there
I can't
and,
do that. I'm
really?
so I really like my audiobook narrators, but it's like, I don't know, it feels so awkward to hear somebody else's like interpretation of like what the work is. Like they'll put emphasis on like different words than I would, and then I'm like, oh, did I write that? Like, I don't know. It makes me so uncomfortable, especially like the spicy scenes. I don't like having like somebody read that to me. It's so awkward.
Wait, so then how did you keep everything in line? Are you just like relying on the grace of copy editors?
No. I mean, they are divine.
Yes,
but no, I will like go back and I'll reread sections of
Okay.
a book that like scenes that I'll like in my script file. I use Scrivener to write, so I won't even go to like the copy edit or anything. It's like still mine in the script file. You know? So I'll go search for the stuff that I need in it, but I haven't read like after I read for copy edits and like past pages, I do not read it again because I tried to read the epilogue in Gods and Monsters and I found a freaking typo on like the first page of it. And I was like, do you know how many people read these books? I'm like, I read it, my critique partner read it, my agent, my editor, like 3 different copy editors, 3 different like proofreaders. I'm like, how did all of us miss this?
I have friends who like will text me like, there's a typo. And I'm like, get a life, bro.
I can't do anything about it.
400 pages. If you call it 2 typos, that's okay.
I know.
I assure you there were many more.
I'm like, and what am I supposed to? I just have to sit with this now.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just gonna like pick at me. Like, yep, there is a typo right there.
It does. Oh my god, I feel it in my stomach
I know.
right now.
I get so
I was
frustrated.
probably just hungry, but like, but truly, where I'm like, oh god, this does not sit right with me. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, for this next reprint, can we please like?
That's a good
correct it?
idea.
Yeah.
I probably should do that. I'm like, okay, I can't think about
I
it.
find
I
it
can't.
wild that like you like just don't reread any. Like I mean, I'm rereading my prequel right now for the first time because I'm writing the 3rd book, and I'm like, I had a moment the other night in the audiobook where I was like, oh god, that was brilliant. Like you would thought that I hadn't written the thing, right? And I was like, that was so punchy, and like, so why are you denying yourself that experience?
That's
like,
also kind of like a two-edged sword, right? Because like as I'm drafting the new book, it's not as good as like the finished version of the last one, and then I get like really like despairing, like it's never gonna be as good as that.
You know it will be because you felt it about that.
I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't ever know that.
Okay, well, was it intimidating to start like a new series in this world, knowing that you had like Serpent and Dove readers who are obviously like big fans of it, instead of like I mean, because I'm like, I wonder if you could have done this as a completely separate series and use a lot of the same things here, but was it like hard to like shut out the voices of like fans, or did you welcome that?
There was such a gap in between Gods and Monsters and the Scarlet Veil that I didn't have too terribly many voices in my head. I did know that not a lot of people liked Saley. And so it kind of became like a challenge to me as I was writing, like, I'm gonna make you like her. Like, if I can get you to pick up the book, I'm gonna make you like her. So that definitely was kind of like a driving force throughout the book, was how can I change their minds about her? Because she is not very nice in Serpent and Dove. She's an antagonist. She does grow throughout that series to like become a friend, but we push her a lot further in the Scarlet Veil.
What made you like select her as a narrator instead of like just doing a completely separate series then, where you could have had someone who's like traditionally likable?
So that's a story. That's kind of a long story. Okay. But I can tell it, and it's not like a very intellectual answer either. When I was writing Gods and Monsters, you've written a third book in a trilogy, like the last book in a trilogy. It's really hard. And I was on deadline, and I was behind. I think I wrote like 50,000 words in 1 month, which was a lot for me.
I did that in January for the last book in the trilogy. Like, it's horrible.
It's awful. It makes me like tense up even thinking about that time in my life. And so at that point, I was done. I was like, I want to write new books, new characters, new worlds. Like, I'm never coming back to the Serpent and Dove universe. We're closing the door. And I was really adamant. And then the day before Gods and Monsters published, I was driving home from my local indie. It's called Wild Geese. It's in Indiana. I'm from Indiana. And Lover by Taylor Swift came on the radio, and I was like, whoa! I thought of Lou and Reed when I listened to it, and I just started crying. I was like, I can't believe it's over. It's really over. Because you know, when you write, and when you write in the same world for so long, so many years, the characters really become like real in your head. Like I almost spent more time with Lou and Reed in my head than I did with like my kids, you know? I was writing them 8 hours a day, and then it was like, so what, I'm just supposed to be like, see you never, you know, like peace out? So I called my critique partner, and I was crying to her, and she said, Shelby, you know, you're the only one who said that it has to be over. Like, it's just you who said that, no one else has. And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know how I would re-enter the world. Like, I feel like the main characters really need a break. They go through a lot in that original series. And she said, hear me out. She said, what about Saley with vampires? And I was like, oh my God, that makes total sense. Because of course they would exist in that world. I already have witches and werewolves and mermaids and all these paranormal creatures. I was like, it makes total sense that vampires would be there. Oh my God. And then to put...
But you hadn't touched on vampires at all.
No, at all. They're not mentioned at all. And I was like, you know, it could be that like they're older and they're cleverer and they guard their existence, like it's a secret. And and Saley, it would be really cool to put this really soft character on like a bloodthirsty vampire island and like watch the chaos unfold. And within 10 minutes, we had the book plotted.
Incredible.
I know, it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This is the next step, for sure.
So we're thinking your friend and Taylor Swift.
Right, exactly. It's Taylor and Jordan. They're the ones who made for the Scarlet Veil, for sure.
So when you were, I mean, and this goes for both like, you know, the witches and werewolves and everything in the original trilogy, but then also with like vampires here, how did you kind of like approach like building the mythology behind these different kind of like species? Like, did you want to like do something that felt like really fresh? Where you wanted to like pay homage to classics? With my vampires, I was actually trying not to do anything fresh. I was inspired by like Dracula, the Gary Oldman's Dracula. That's no disrespect to, you know, the source material, which is Twilight for sure. Like, no disrespect to Edward and like the Cullens and the Sprightly vampires. I love them too. I love like every variation of vampires. But for my vampires, I wanted them to be very aristocratic, very beautiful, very, you know, still bloodthirsty, but like they're smiling, they're cultured as they eat you, you know, with like the traditional vampire lore, like the King of the Sun, Silver, all of the fun things. I have 2 older brothers. Cool. They made me watch the black and white version of Dracula when I was like 6. Oh my God. They like locked me in the room and made me watch it. They were really mean. And I stayed up all that night like staring at my window, like, oh my God, you're gonna go read me as a 6-year-old, you know? Somehow that translated to me like really loving vampires. I don't know, there's probably something I need to like unpack there in therapy, but yeah, so I was definitely trying to like pay homage for sure to traditional vampires. Oh my God. Obsessed. Okay. So you want to speak a little bit about like the love story in this one? You want to like walk us through vibes if you don't want to get too deep into
I mean, it's like a light love triangle. At the end of Gods and Monsters, Jean-Luc like spends that whole book. He is a huntsman pursuing Sailey. He's loved her forever, you know. But dang Reed, he had her first. Anyway, so at the beginning of the Scarlet Veil, Sailey and Jean-Luc are in a relationship. So it is a little bit of a love triangle because obviously she meets Michael, who is like the vampire king.
Yeah.
And you know, what are you gonna do? Right. It's very much like the trope between Michael and Sailey is like the bad boy, the good girl, enemies to lovers, forbidden romance, like all of those things.
And is this one dual POV?
No, it's just one. So it's different than Serpent and Dove.
Okay, yeah.
Serpent and Dove was dual POV with Blue and Reed, and this one's just Sailey.
Cool. What kind of like went behind that choice? Were you just...
This is a kind of a crafty answer. With Serpent and Dove, I added Reed's point of view later. Like he's half the book. His point of view is I added that in revisions because he needed to be less mysterious in his thoughts because he's super problematic. If you're just like he's like burning witches, right? He's like burning women at the stake. He's like the church, black, white. Like he's a bigot at the beginning of the book. And it's like, I mean, he's like indoctrinated and everything, and he unlearns all of that like throughout the book. But like he needed less mystery. We needed to like see his thoughts to make him more like to like show the doubt and like those things, so we don't, so we're not immediately like no. Ship Lou with anyone else. Whereas with Michael, I wanted him to be a little bit more mysterious, to be a little scarier, like to not know exactly where he's at all the time. Like I didn't want Sailey to know exactly where he was at all the time, and I thought it was stronger and more compelling to experience him through Sailey.
Did you find like any kind of like freedoms or I don't know, like even like some wants that you had like Michael's like POV in it? Because I know sometimes I wrestle with this with almost every book where I'm like, are you single POV? Are you multiple POV? How many POVs? Like, and where I'm like, you see the advantages and the pros and cons, but did you have any of that? I
actually, Michael was kind of hard for me to write. I had to rewrite his character just even from Sailey's point of view. Like I knew that I wanted him to be a villain love interest. But my critique partner, she reads everything that I write as I write it, and she loves a villain love interest. And about 75% of the way in, she was like, "Is it abusive or is it hot? Like, you might need to have like a conversation." Like, and she's like, "He's not doing it for me." So I had to go back and rewrite his character. I had to soften him so that he wasn't like just like a sadist, I guess. I don't know. So like I landed on he's like soft for Sailey. He's like mean to everybody else.
It's interesting that with that note you then didn't think like, oh, let me go do exactly what I did with Serpent and Dove, and because if we get into his POV, then like we'll
there's
understand.
no mystery, and we wanted a little bit of that, like you know, like he is a villain. It's just we had to make him a little less villainy towards her. So he was kind of hard for me. I didn't want to write his POV because he was so hard. I had to write a bonus scene for the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and I had to get into his POV there, and it was really challenging. He came out much less villainy than I thought he would. He was very much like Phantom of the Opera flipping his cape, like just a dramatic king. I was like, okay, I made the right decision by not putting his POV in this book. He's like super angsty, super piney, like not scary at all.
But people love like an angsty vampire. I mean, like Stephanie Meyer is so wealthy.
He's a phantom who wants to be Raoul, is what he is. Like in his head, like I can never touch her. Like she'll vanish with the sun. Like it's so embarrassing to think about him.
She'll vanish with the sun. That is an embarrassing concept. Everything that you've sold me on is the whole like, oh, just one coffin show.
Hey, forget I said it. Forget I said anything about his internal thoughts.
Yes. It's like, oh yeah, I don't want to be talking to coffin with this guy.
No.
That's kind of like,
he doesn't present that way. He buries it down deep.
So I have some fun questions. I have one that I think you're gonna hate.
Okay, great.
And I feel like you've been asked it before, and I've seen you get asked it on Instagram stories, and I'm bringing it up to just be problematic. Witches versus vampire. You have to choose one.
Is it like what I like to read or what I like to write? Because
I honestly thought that
it's the same answer. It's vampires.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I thought you were like, I can't choose.
No, I
Or you just promoted the vampire world, so we got all like.
I liked writing the vampires because they're kind of like the strongest and the fastest and all of these things. And whereas witches, in my magic system with witches, it was so hard to write. There's like a give and take with the witches in mine. Like to give, you have to get, you have to give. You have to sacrifice something of like equal value. Like whether it's like to break a lock, you break your finger, or you like break a relationship, or you know what I mean. And it was freaking hard after 3 books worth of it, of like Lou doing this. In Gods and Monsters, during the big like climactic battle between Lou and her mom, you know, that's like, we're trying to pull out like the really cool magic, you know, and I was so like burnt out on this magic system that I remember turning the book into my editor with like brackets that said "cool magic here?" question mark. Like, to her, I wanted her help, and I know that she was so burnt out too because she sent it back with like, I don't know, maybe like a tornado of love. Like, and I was like, it's time to not write witches anymore. We were retiring the witches after this book. And it's been so cool because in the Scarlet Veil with Lou now, it's not her POV. She can do whatever the heck I want her to do. She can fly now, you know? Like, I don't have to explain it. It just is, right? Like, Zaylee doesn't know what she sacrificed to be able to do that. So it's like been so satisfying.
Well, I do want to ask you, I've created a couple showdowns. Edward versus Buffy. Edward Cullen versus Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You haven't seen Buffy? What?
I like during the pandemic I tried to turn it on and it's, you guys.
First season's rough.
It's so old. Like the special effects are so old and I don't have like the nostalgic connection and I was just like, what is going on? Their faces.
Weren't you just watching Smallville?
I did.
How dare you?
Listen to me. It's very clear why I'm watching Smallville, okay? I shouldn't have to explain this.
There are hot people.
They're the vampires. No,
actually, wait, no one's hot in Buffy.
No.
Well, no guy is hot. There's like really cute. Like Riley was like, I guess you'll just kill my second question because it involved Riley.
Who's Riley?
You don't know.
Okay. I know there's like Angel, right? Like,
yeah, but Angel's not hot.
And then there's Spike.
Who's also definitely.
Yeah, I didn't think that. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. I'm gonna say.
I'll yuck it.
They don't do it for me either.
Yeah. Okay. In a fight between Edward versus Buffy, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. If you are Team Edward, which is not in the context of Team Edward versus... Okay, so if Edward would beat Buffy in a fight, raise your hand. Okay, who thinks Buffy would win?
We love Buffy. She's cute.
Buffy would win. She has her side. She's... What? I don't like you all tonight. We've had better nights as a store, okay? All right, well, since you don't know who the next one I was going to ask, it's actually kind of unfair. I was going to say Bella versus Riley, for those who... But Riley...
Who's Riley?
Riley was basically Buffy's first, like, normal human love interest. He got really toxic because, like, Buffy had the power and he didn't, and he couldn't be, like, a man and all this stuff. And they addressed that.
So, okay, I'm glad they addressed it. So he's, like, my favorite character.
Yeah. So I was gonna say Riley versus Bella.
I picked Bella just based on the information you just gave me.
I was saying it could also be Vampire Bella, but anyway.
Especially her.
Yeah. She beat that ass. Okay. Okay. Is there a vampire lore in a show or book that drives you crazy, where you're like, no, I can't get behind this? This was not at all prompted by sparkly Edward Cullen.
See, look, with Edward, I don't actually mind that he sparkles. I can't get behind the, like, I'm gonna drink animal blood. I'm like, you're a vampire, you know? Like, I don't know, that's my thing, where I'm like, get over it.
But see, I'm a vegan, so that answer pisses me off. I remember I read this, like, graphic novel. It was really good up until the point where, like, the resolution was like, okay, we're gonna give this vampire, it was, like, for, like, middle grade, too. They were like, I think it was over. But they were like, yeah, so we're just gonna give you like animal blood. And I'm like, I hate that as a resolution. It actually like, it was such a 5-star book for me up until that point.
I don't know what it says about me, but I don't like the idea of like them like eating rabbits and deer and stuff. Like,
I grew up with rabbits.
I'm like, literally eat the human instead.
Don't eat the shitty human.
Exactly, don't find them. Especially N-word, you could hear thoughts. Like, I know that she tried to spin that, like, that was his dark stage. Like,
right.
And he was, like, killing really bad people. I'm like, do it, go for it.
I read Twilight for the first time right before the movie came out. And it's because, like, the trailer sold me. They had, like, the Muse soundtrack.
It was like that blue filter that really got you.
Probably. But blue was my favorite color at the time. But literally, I remember getting to the point of Twilight. It was like that halfway mark when we're about to finally figure out that thing that we've known since the jacket copy. And then, like, he's like, oh yeah, my dark secret or whatever. And then he just starts glittering. I was pissed.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella. I was supposed to buy a t-shirt that had that on and wearing. I just want you guys to know, like, I was about to go like full camp with this.
But New Moon was such. I only read the first two. New Moon was such an improvement for me, but like.
You like New Moon better than Twilight?
Yeah, because it had all the like Volturi stuff, and it actually just had like more mythology.
Like a plot.
Yeah.
I love Twilight. I don't want you guys to walk away from this being like, show me things.
I love the Twilight movies. I did not perceive like.
I haven't read the books in a long time.
I also really applaud Stephanie Meyer, and also by the way, like. I'm represented by the same agent as Stephanie Meyer, and I'm still willingly but like, and I just really applaud that like Stephanie Meyer has basically published Twilight like 3 different times.
I tried to read Midnight Sun when it came out, and I was like, wait, I'm just reading the same book that I've already read.
I love like the gender reverse.
I know.
It was like, bro.
I respect it.
I mean, they both die at the end. We just have like
exactly.
Ruficia and Latea.
You should. You know, you never know.
Congrats to Shelby. Round of applause.
Thank you for coming on.
How are we doing this?
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, I'm coming back. Thank you so much. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you for the amazing moderating, as usual.
Yeah, we're gonna clap for Adam.
We are going to start the signing in the back. Let me get them to the back first, and then you can start signing, lining up by the greeting card. Again, if you don't.
Thank you so much for being here with us. We're so excited to talk to you about your new book.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to the Ripped Bodice for
hosting us.
This bookstore's so cool. Everybody should come here and check it out if you're in Culver City.
Cool. It's so cool.
Now, for our audience, for our spooky book fans, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
About myself?
Yes.
Dun, dun,
just like the deepest questions within your soul. It's not
like
just
what motivates
your name and what kind of books you write. It's like who you are as a person.
Okay. I am Shelby Mahurin, author of the Serpent and Dove trilogy and the new book, The Scarlet Veil. But what's important is that I am an Enneagram type 5 wing 6. I am a Gemini sun, a Capricorn moon, and a Gemini rising. I was born on the cusp between Taurus and Gemini season, so I have a lot of earth in my chart. I claim the earth, don't really claim the air as much.
Which means now you know every single thing about her.
Down to the
smallest
detail.
You know exactly who I am as a person.
Well, I wanted to say I really loved the Serpent and Dove series, and I kind of loved how badass Lou was as a character. And so it was a real shift to go to Seeley, who is like a little bit softer, a little bit more vulnerable. Is the reason you chose this character because of that contrast, because they're so different?
I chose to write Sally's story, I think, because she is the opposite of Lou, yes. I thought it was important to showcase that women can be soft and still strong. And just people in general. You can be soft and strong at the same time. I like to describe Lou kind of as the heroine we all wish that we were.
Yeah.
She always has the quick wit. She's got the comeback. She can wield a dagger. She can like lead the charge into battle. She's very magical, like the most magical. She's the chosen one. Whereas Sally is kind of more who we all are.
Yeah.
Sally is definitely the type who like she's got a temper, but when she gets in a fight, she kind of like clams up, and then she thinks about, you know, I should have said that.
Yeah.
In the shower later, like she's like, dang it, if only I could go back. So she really she has other strengths. Other than like physical strength.
Yeah.
She's
very smart.
She's very intelligent. She's very determined. It's almost
I don't want to use the word cunning too lightly, but like she can look around in the room and like figure out how to use something in it to her advantage, which we see her do many times in the Scarlet Veil because she is on an island of vampires.
Yeah,
but
which is so cool.
The strength there is that like she's kind of used to being the quote unquote weakest already. And so she knows how to utilize that already with these vampires. Whereas maybe some of the more powerful characters that we know are at a disadvantage on Requiem because it's like, oh, like suddenly I'm not powerful anymore, you know? Like, how do I use this to my, how do I use my strength to my strength when you can't, when it's an immortal vampire?
I know, in a landscape with so many, like, YA books where, like, everyone is, like, the badass and kicking butt, I felt like Celie was just, like, a breath of fresh air. And just, like, anytime, and this was so masterful, I felt like typically in books, like when characters like cry, sometimes it can be like really cringy, even though we do cry. And every time she did, I felt like I was with her there and just like feeling her and feeling my feelings. Right. And so I thought that was so beautiful and so masterfully done.
Celie cries unapologetically.
It's great. It's amazing, and I love it.
She makes no excuses for feeling emotions, which I think is fantastic, and it's something that we all need to see more of.
How did you come to that decision to really make her vulnerable?
I feel like this might be the unpopular answer, but I feel like Celie was kind of always vulnerable. Even in the original trilogy, when she's the antagonist because she's vulnerable.
Yeah.
We, with Lou, overhear this conversation that she has with Reed, where she is extremely vulnerable. She's like, I love you. Please don't be with her, be with me. And of course, we don't like that as the reader because we're on Team Lou. We're like, well, who is this? Like, she just came out of nowhere. She's stealing our man, you know? But whereas she kind of like channeled that vulnerability into anger in that scene, we see her in the Scarlet Veil. She does feel she feels the whole spectrum of human emotion, really.
Yeah, she does.
She feels angry, sadness, like all of them. It's, I don't know, I think it's really powerful to see it. So I don't necessarily think I made a conscious decision to make her vulnerable because she already was.
It was just who
in that
she
scene,
was.
right. She's just kind of been, she grows in like her worldview, absolutely, and how she sees other women and friendship and loyalty and all of these things. But like her vulnerability has been like the core of her character from like the first page where she insults Lou, and we all dislike her for it.
This is a tiny spoiler, tiny. This isn't like, we're gonna do more spoilers later, but like the moment like her and Guinevere come together, I was laughing so hard because that was so cute.
Is it when she's trying to get into Michael's office? Yes. When it's like she helps her only after she realizes like we're gonna spite Michael together.
Yep.
Right.
That was so just like their dynamic was so fun.
Guinevere is she's a ghost in the Scarlet Veil, and she is like the most toxic. She's the most toxic woman
but
ever.
In a fun
way.
She's
so jealous. Like as soon as Celie mentions like Michael, she's like, wait a second, like you can't be around Michael, he's mine.
He's my man.
But it's like it is. I tried to make it fun instead of just like okay, Guinevere.
Speaking of fun, so I run a vampire book page, so all my questions are vampire questions. And so going back to like references that you make, it feels like when we're on the ship, it feels very Dracula. There's a lot of like vampire diaries in this, and it just feels like so many cool callbacks. And so I was wondering what inspired you the most.
So the largest inspiration for the Scarlet Veil was Gary Oldman's Dracula, the movie, with Gary Oldman and is it Winona Ryder?
Yeah, and Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. He's in that movie too, I guess.
He's there.
He's Jonathan. It's okay if you forgot about him.
He's just Ken. That movie, like the whole aesthetic of that movie, I remember it like became my identity when I watched it a few years ago. I was like, oh my god, this is what I want in a vampire, right there. Like, I didn't understand, like, the Gary Oldman thirst until I watched that movie, and I was like, okay, I get it
I get it.
Like, just how opulent they are, how lavish, like, there's, like, a cultured air to my vampires, just like there was to his Dracula, because it's, like, part of the aristocracy and stuff. Yeah. I loved the dichotomy of having them be very polished, very refined, and then, like, also, like, bloodthirsty. You know? Like, I'll smile and
like
I'll compliment you as I eat you.
Even with the vampires, I feel like there's a way in which you bring female characters together that's like so beautiful and so wonderful and so fun to read. Is it fun to write those scenes? Is it fun when you're just like, I'm gonna take these women who in most books would just have beef and be fighting all the time, and they're gonna be friends?
Yeah, that's super important to me. Like positive female friendship, it's always gonna be in my books. You're probably never gonna see too much of like a toxic female friendship because I don't believe in it. To make it simple, I do think you're right in that Saley and Lou have every reason to dislike each other. They have a history with the same man, and yet they choose over the course of these books to not react that way. They choose to show up for each other in a real and like vulnerable and emotional way. So it is always very satisfying to write Saley, Lou, and Coco on the page together because they do show up for each other, and it's like a choice. Yeah. Right? They haven't always known each other. They don't have like a long, complicated history. Saley and Lou kind of do, but you know what I mean? But like they made the choice to like, I'm going to see the best in this person. I am going to get to know this person. I'm going to befriend this person. So it's satisfying emotionally to write them, but it's also fun. Like they do have a good time together. I feel like anytime that Lou is in a room with Saley, they're so different that it is fun to like the back and forth between them is a lot of fun because Lou is a poker. Yes. And Saley is a smile, smiler. Yeah.
I'm fine right now.
Yeah, everything's
I feel that
you're
so
still
much.
poking.
Saley really admires Lou. And I think that when we get into her point of view in the Scarlet Veil, you see that more. She really admires Lou. She really appreciates that Lou did take the time to befriend her. Saley isn't someone who had a lot of friends before Lou and Coco and Reed and Jean-Luc, you know? So she loves them deeply.
Well, no, I think a lot of us find that really relatable. I don't know about other bookish girls, but I feel like sometimes it's like rare to find like groups of friends. Like you're alone for a long time and then you meet all these people and you're like, how did this happen? How
it's
did
like a found family.
Yeah, absolutely.
My favorite trope,
yeah,
found
family.
Too. And speaking of other favorite things, so very early on when she's entering the tomb, or is it a tomb? Tomb, yeah. She's bringing roses with her,
and
in the cemetery, and they wilt. And like my vampire brain was just like, vampires coming, wilted roses, here we go. Are there any other things that you gleaned from like mythology? Because it's like, that's not a big Dracula thing, that's not a Vampire Diaries thing, that's a deep lore thing.
That was actually like a mistake thing.
Oh my gosh, no way!
Not a mistake, but I had the roses wilting. I knew that Michael was coming, but I had the roses wilting for another reason. It was aesthetic initially, and then during revisions, we actually, I don't know, can I say this?
Yeah.
Spoilery.
We're
spoiler warning.
Telling them it's a spoiler. Okay, enter at your own risk. So the land is dying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what, and Frederick was like totally there.
Yeah.
With Babette.
Yeah, just like hiding.
Hiding.
Right.
And so the roses start wilting kind of and Saley starts hearing the dead talking to her. They're talking to her. They're telling her basically to get out of there, to run because it's dangerous. He's here.
Yeah.
And so the roses wilting were, it was like a sign of Frederick because he is the one breaking the land, the magic, everything. And but you obviously think it's Michael.
Yeah.
She runs into Michael right after outside
like
of the
just such a vampire.
Right. It
thing.
goes very much into the gothic aesthetic.
Well, it's clear as
it's
clear as you go that the land is dying. But we thought it was like a vampire deep cut.
I definitely wanted you guys to think that with Michael.
You did it.
Like,
Success.
He's like lurking outside the gate. Like obviously Saley thinks it's him too. I mean, why are you standing out here, Michael? You're being really creepy.
Success there too.
Yeah. I love that scene when they meet. It's fun. That was fun because she's so like wildly hysterical.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care at all.
She's justifiably hysterical.
Oh, I would be that way too.
And then she's even thinking, she's like, oh no, this is like the wrong emotion to be having here, but
like,
I can't tone it down. There's a dead body.
She does. She's like, nobody's going to take me seriously. This is very serious. No one's going to take me seriously because I'm hysterical, but I am. It's warranted. There's a dead body in there. Like, we got to get somebody in here.
No, we thought that was great.
I loved it so much.
I'm glad.
Was there one more question before the spoiler? Oh no, that was
okay.
It.
Now we're in spoiler land.
Now we're in
Definitely
spoiler
got
land.
there.
We are in a little deeper spoilery land because it has to do with like way later on in the book. So this is where we're gonna put up the big spoiler text. There's no going back. You're past the point of no return.
End of the book land. Final pages.
So one thing that I feel like is a really interesting part of Sally's journey is that there's almost this setup, which we see in a lot of YA novels of like, maybe she's gonna be the martyr. And I love at the end that she chooses herself, even over her sister and her sister's potential child. She chooses to fight for her own life. And that was such an interesting, amazing character choice. Like, when did you land on that? And was that like supposed to be the culmination of that kind of journey?
It was. Sally, she has a very external focus. Though she is emotional and things, she doesn't necessarily see her own worth throughout all of the books.
Yeah.
And so her choosing, you know, not to die, to like bring her dead sister back to life. It was a big moment for her because she's like, wait, you know, like, this isn't right. Like, I shouldn't have to do this. Like, what's the expectation here?
Right.
Of like what it's kind of a theme in Serpent and Dove too. Like, what's the expectation here of like, what does unconditional love look like? Like, should we have unconditional? Like, should I die for this person? And the answer is no. You shouldn't die for someone else to live, you know? Lou has to do that a little bit too, only on like a grander scale. Yeah. So she didn't have any trouble making that decision. No, but it was like kind of a culmination of her arc. Like, I do matter.
It was so good. It was that was the moment where I was like, mind blown. Yeah. Oh, I love this.
So last spoiler
Last
question.
but not least spoiler question.
So this story associates death and rebirth, and Seely is the bride of death when she's forced in a coffin, and then later we have but there's only one coffin
trope, and she later.
I don't know if I can answer that.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Without spoiling some book 2.
Book 2.
I mean, I can cut this part out. Great question.
That's awesome. Such a good question. You guys couldn't hear the answer because it's spoilers for book 2. Like the ultimate spoiler.
I'm sorry, you guys. You just have to be disappointed until
we'll
the
play
second
it
book
as
comes
the
out.
clip after book 2 comes out. We'll be like, hey.
Okay. Beautiful.
Remember when?
Remember when? Here's that missing section.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. We loved your book so much.
Thank you guys so much for reading it. I really appreciate both of you.
Absolutely. You guys, please check it out. It is fantastic. If you love Serpent and Dove, you're absolutely going to love this. And if you love vampires, like vampire romance, it's so good.
And also, super thank you to Ripped Bodice
Yes.
again, because like they're closed and waiting for us to leave and being amazing.
Yes,
we love
they
them
let us
so
stay past
much.
closing. All right, thank you guys so much. Hey, creatures of the night, thanks so much for joining us for this wonderful event. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell, let us know what your favorite vampire book is. And if you're gonna check this one out, we very much encourage it. We'll see you next time. Bye.